You know that feeling? You're sitting on a plane, you look out the window at the wing, and a little thought pops into your head. How do they really know this thing is safe to fly? Well, it turns out the answer is way more organized and systematic than you might think.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? With thousands of flights taking off every single day, there has to be some kind of ironclad, rock-solid system to make sure everything is good to go before those wheels leave the tarmac.
And you can bet there is. This isn't just a pilot walking around kicking the tires. We're talking about a super rigorous, legally required system of checks that every plane has to pass. No exceptions.
So, how do pilots and mechanics keep all of this straight? They use a simple but really powerful little memory aid, the word aviates. Every single letter stands for a critical check that absolutely cannot be skipped. Let's dive in and see what it's all about.
Okay, so the whole point of this entire aviates checklist is to prove one single legal concept, that the plane is airworthy. That's the official FAA term. And it basically means the plane is both legally and physically safe to be in the air. If it's not airworthy, it's not a plane. It's just a really, really expensive piece of lawn art. So let's start at the beginning. The checklist cleverly kicks off with two A's. Now, this can be a little confusing because one is a routine check that happens on a schedule, and the other is a much more urgent, we found a problem kind of thing. Let's sort them out. And here's the difference in a nutshell. Think of the annual inspection like your car's big yearly top-to-bottom physical. It happens every year, no matter what. Airworthiness directives, or ADs, are totally different. They're more like an emergency safety recall from the manufacturer saying, hey, we found a problem with this specific part, and you have to fix it now.
So that first A is for the annual. Every certified airplane, period, has to get completely stripped down and inspected from nose to tail, wingtip to wingtip every 12 months. It's really the bedrock of an aircraft's entire maintenance history.
The second A is for those airworthiness directives we mentioned. So if the FAA finds a potential safety issue, maybe a crack forming in a certain part on a specific model of plane, they issue an AD. And this isn't a suggestion. It's a legally binding order. It has to be fixed.
All right, moving on. The next chunk of the checklist, the V, the I, and the T, are all about timing. These are inspections that are triggered by the clock or by how much the plane is actually being used.
And you can see right here how different types of flying demand different checks. The VOR is a frequent check for pilots flying in the clouds. The 100 hours for workhorse planes that are constantly flying. And the transponder check is a longer-term thing for pretty much everyone flying near busy airports.
First up is V for VOR. The VOR is a piece of navigation gear. It's basically what allows a pilot to find their way when they're flying through clouds and can't see the ground at all.
So, as you can imagine, if you're literally flying blind, you need to be absolutely sure your navigation equipment is accurate. That's why it has to be checked every 30 days. But, and this is key, only if you plan on flying under what's called Instrument Flight Rules, or IFR.
Okay, so the I in aviates is a little bit of a trick. It's not the letter I, it's the number 1, as in 100. This is for the 100-hour inspection, and it's for planes that get a real workout, like the ones used for flight training or charter flights.
Now here's a little quirk in the rules that's actually kind of cool. Let's say a plane is due for its inspection, but it's not at a maintenance base. The FAA lets the pilot fly a little bit over the 100-hour limit, but only to get to a place where the inspection can happen. But here's the catch. The clock doesn't reset. If they get the inspection done at 102 hours, the next one is still due at 200 hours, not 202. It's a smart way to keep people from pushing the limits.
All right, on to the T. And this one stands for transponder. You can think of the transponder as a little electronic box that's constantly shouting out to the world, hey, I'm a plane, I'm right here, and I'm at this altitude. It's what lets air traffic control see you on their radar. To make sure that information is accurate, which is pretty important for not bumping into other planes, that transponder has to be tested every 2 years. It's an absolute must if you're flying in busy, controlled airspace, like around any major city. It is a huge piece of the puzzle for collision avoidance.
And that brings us to the final two letters, E and S. These two cover systems that are both lifesavers, but in very different ways. One is your absolute last resort in a worst-case scenario, and the other gives you the most basic information you need to fly the plane every single second.
So you've got the ELT, which is an emergency beacon designed to help rescuers find a plane after a crash. Then you have the pilostatic system, which is used on every single flight to tell the pilot 3 basic things. How fast am I going? How high am I? And am I going up or down?
Let's start with E for Emergency Locator Transmitter, or ELT. This gets an inspection every year, but its battery has these really specific rules. You have to replace it either when it hits the halfway mark of its shelf life or if it's been turned on and used for a cumulative total of 1 hour. This makes sure that if you ever need it, it has plenty of juice to call for help.
And finally, we have S for the pitot-static system. This is the network of little tubes and sensors that measure air pressure to tell the pilot their airspeed and altitude. Again, if you're flying in the clouds, IFR, you absolutely depend on these instruments, so the whole system has to be tested and certified for accuracy every 24 months.
So, we've gone through every letter, from the annual inspection all the way to the static system. Let's pull it all back together. What's the big picture here? Why does this all matter so much?
And there you have it. AVITES. It's the pilot's go-to checklist for making sure a flight is not just safe, but also legal. From the big annual inspection to the tiny sensors of the static system, every letter is a layer of safety that you just can't skip. If even one of these isn't done, that plane is staying on the ground.
And that's not just a good idea, it is the law. The FAA makes it crystal clear. You miss one of these inspections, your plane is officially unairworthy. It's grounded. Period. And that can come with some serious penalties. This isn't just about best practices. It's about the bottom line of aviation safety and regulation.
So this whole meticulous system is what keeps a small, 4-seat plane safe in the skies. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? If this is the level of detail for a little Cessna, what on earth does the checklist look like for a massive 747 before it takes off to fly hundreds of people across an entire ocean? That's a whole other level.